Good afternoon, everyone. Bit of a change today. I'm streaming live from our Technology North event. We've got just shy of 30 of our manufacturer and vendor partners here supporting us, and we are entertaining a number of resellers and end users from across the north of the UK who are here to have a little look at the tech on show, particularly those of them who weren't able to make ISE and Infocom this year. Now, I've been to both of those shows. It feels like show season. Everything's crammed into a couple of months at the moment. But coming off the back of ISE 22 and Infocom 22, one of the major trends that we've seen, particularly attached to digital signage, has been AI-driven targeted content. And it's quite an interesting topic for us, as we've very recently acquired a business in the security and surveillance market, and their lead vendor is Hikvision. And I think that that's a particularly interesting brand for us to be working with in today's world, where we are trying to capture gender, mood, facial capture, etc., for us to be able to then target specific content or trigger content in certain environments. So with me is Gavin from DVS.
Hello.
Joining us today from Tech North. So Gavin, is this your first AV event, core AV event that you're exhibiting at?
It absolutely is, 100%, yeah. And I've got to say, you've done a fantastic job here.
Oh, I don't do it.
Pass it on to somebody else. No, very well attended. It looks amazing. Lots of great people here, yeah. Excited.
So naturally, my first question to you is going to be the difference in customers. So I've spotted a few of your customers have infiltrated our event to come and see yourselves today.
That's
and
right.
Hikvision.
Secret, yeah.
But mostly we've got AV integrators and resellers here.
Yeah, absolutely.
Is security and surveillance typically something that our customers were already involved in, or were they outsourcing? What's the difference, do you think? What's different about a security and surveillance installer versus an AV installer?
I think one of the problems that the industry has is that people try and pigeonhole themselves and put themselves within one particular area, whether that be IT, security, or AV, for example. But let's be frank about it. A lot of these people are doing the work across those three facets without actually really knowing it. So what you have now is you've got many people that are involved in, the AV guys are doing the IT elements of it, or the security guys are also doing a bit of AV, or vice versa. So there is a huge sort of conversion, and I love this word, cross-pollination of sort of markets. It's a little bit strange. A lot of people think that security is a bit of a dark art, but in real terms, to me, it's not. It's quite simple. The AV guys are going out there and they're putting in a network and putting devices on the end of a network. Security is exactly the same, just slightly different devices. So, there's going to be much more of that happening as we move forward. That's the way I see it going. Hence the reason why it's a perfect fit of DVS coming into the group. So, makes absolute sense.
Agreed. Yeah. Now, the network point is an interesting one.
Yeah.
And it was a real hot topic for AV guys at the last couple of shows. Mm-hmm. We really struggle, actually. So, and interestingly, what I discovered at the last two shows is it's not about IT teams not wanting AV kit on their local network. It's as much about us not wanting our kit on their local network in case of changes that could affect it. Is this something that affects CCTV installs? Are you on a dedicated network, or are you allowed access to the LAN?
We have exactly the same issues and same problems. We would prefer, obviously, dedicated, and I think everybody would for obvious reasons. Something like security, because obviously the term security itself, a lot of people, again, get frightened of it and expect it to be on a dedicated. It doesn't need to be. Yeah. Obviously, if you set the thing up in the right way and in the correct manner, especially to the recommended, solution or whatever that looks like, specification, then everything should absolutely be fine. But obviously, dedicated is always better.
And I think we feel the same in our AV over IP world still as well. So that convergence hasn't necessarily happened for us yet. And I don't think it's coming that soon either. Now, for you guys, we felt like we've been under attack a bit in AV for some time with plug and play solutions.
Yeah,
the
absolutely.
IT guys coming in, consumer tech,
Absolutely.
particularly with the pandemic. Yeah. Now, as an outside point of view, Ring and Nest and these people, you can buy home security solutions very easily online now. Yeah. What do these professional solutions that you offer do over and above those off-the-shelf solutions that people can get?
You kicked it off great there. You started off talking about AI and the introduction of analytics and how that works. Look, you can get these cheap plug and play systems, absolutely, and everybody knows that you can go and get them. But then if you actually want something to do, if you actually want the solution to do something for you, you want it to work for you, that's when you need the skill sets and the relevant people to be able to install this equipment. Because, if you're putting in a particular analytic, like you said, to check out somebody's mood or age or whatever that looks like, you need somebody who's got the skill set to be able to do that. And that's where the differentiators start to come into play here. You do absolutely have that bottom end, plug and play, throw it in, forget about it, elements of it. When you actually get paid properly for doing this job, and I shouldn't say that, but anyway, you get paid properly for doing this.
You get paid properly.
I know, it's outrageous, isn't it? But if the installation guys and the integrators and the resellers and dealers want to get paid properly for it, you've got to introduce those elements of it. Analytics is a huge thing. AI is massive. I've always said this, and I've said this going back 5-6 years. Nobody really cares anymore about what the image is of a camera. It's what the data that it gives you, what it can deliver for you. That's the important bit. That's where the value is. So that's why you need the skill set of those engineers, etc., to be able to install that, do it, set it up, make sure that it runs properly. So they're the huge differences. I'm sure it's been similar within the AV.
Very similar indeed. So to finish up, I'll just ask you about Hikvision and DVS here today. What are you showing our customers that are attending at the event?
Well, we're actually showing some AI equipment ourselves, some analytical equipment. But the good thing is what we're trying to do is just introduce ourselves to the market in real terms. There's so much synergy for what you guys do. Look, your customers are going out there, and let's bolt on another revenue stream for and give them something else that they can offer, because it really isn't that difficult. They're in there putting the cables in, they're putting the networks in. It's just slightly different products on the end of that. So hopefully we should have some success and get some of the AV customers installing security. That's what I'm hoping anyway. That's my job. So.
Good. Well, good luck for the rest of the afternoon.
Thank you very much.
Thanks so much for joining us.
Cheers. Thank you very much as well. Good luck.
So we've got another few guests lined up here today. Quite nerve-wracking, obviously, as we are not just live, but live and in person. And for the first time, I'm running this stream and I can't actually see myself. I'm also all alone, minus my partner in crime, Chris Netto, who is feeling much better after contracting COVID at Infocom. So we wish Chris very well, but he is out of isolation now and back at work. So I'm now joined by Wayne from Neat.
Hello, Jenny.
Hello, how are you?
I'm very well, thank you. Can everyone hear me okay? Is
well,
all good?
We don't know because they're not here. So, but they'll tell production Chris if they can't hear us.
He's smiling, so that looks a good sign. So.
And how are you finding the show today?
It's brilliant. It's good to be back home. So originally from Manchester, so wild horses wouldn't stop me from being here.
Apart from the train strikes.
Oh yeah, it didn't matter. The 5.5 hour drive this morning, not a problem. Seriously, no, and it's been brilliant as well. So lots of old faces, lots of new faces. And as Neat, obviously, we're trying to build a brand. I keep saying to everyone, we are a startup. Still, we are a startup. But it's our second full year of trading. It's going really well, and we're getting a really good response.
Yes.
So I will say, most of the events we've been doing so far, we're getting really good. But the Midwich events we do are always great, always brilliant. So very happy to support.
And so you've got a range of products here today. Now, I guess the beauty of Neat products is how simple and easy they can be. Well, so to coin a Zoom phrase, it just works, that frictionless environment, which you guys can now do both for Zoom and Teams. Is that correct?
Yeah, we're really excited about that. I mean, our heritage and the way we started with Zoom, and Zoom platform's been fantastic. But obviously, we know from I suppose geographically, Microsoft have a large market share, so it was something that we needed to be involved in. It's something our customers and partners now we're demanding. So we're really pleased with the speed that we've managed to get our team certification. And we're getting a really great response, particularly from products like the Neat board. Our 10 touch 65-inch screen, fully integrated. And our new device, the Neat frame as well, is getting a lot of interest. So it bodes well.
Good. Now, hot topic at the last couple of shows. So I'm fresh off of Infocom and hadn't fully recovered from ISE before I got to Infocom. But there is a trending phrase. It's everywhere. I'm sick of hearing it. And that is meeting equity. But you guys kind of got there quite quickly. So I've talked a lot through the pandemic about how when we were coming back into the office, we were going to lose that level playing field where we've all been on a call in the same shaped thumbnail box with our heads nicely centered, everyone learned a new etiquette. We started listening for intakes of breath, or we raised our hands in Zoom, and we used the chat function if we needed to talk to each other. And we had really productive, structured meetings. Then we went back to the office, and at first we're using wide field of view cameras, and we lost that facial expression and so on. But you guys quite quickly came to market with an option that would zone in on those faces for us and give us back that level playing field. Can you talk a bit about Neat Symmetry, how it works and why it's useful?
Yeah, no, certainly. So yeah, it's our kind of jewel in the crown, dare I say. And I believe we've just got the official patent for it. So that's brilliant.
Yeah.
Yeah, I call it pinhead. So I've done video for a long time, 27 years. I know, it's a long time. But that pinhead shot has always been there.
Yeah.
And you're quite right, it destroys meeting equity. So symmetry in its basic form removes the dead space. So you might have 4 or 5 or however many participants you have in that meeting. And obviously we want to get up close and personal, see the whites of the eyes. And symmetry basically enables us to do that. It will latch on to a human, recognize a human. The AI in the system recognizes that. And it will zoom in on that person. But the great thing with symmetry is you can have somebody sitting a meter away or somebody sitting 10 meters away, and it will bring them to the same level and remove that dead space. So restores meeting equity. So, you know, I know that being a participant from a meeting room, you feel disjointed. You do feel as if you're not quite a part of it. And using Neat Symmetry, I have to say, all of a sudden you feel like you're being engaged with again because people can see you. So Neat Symmetry is, it's one of our jewel in the crowns and is a powerful little bit of software.
And what's been the most popular product that you've had on show here today so far?
I think, to be honest, at the moment, it's a kind of 2-horse race between our Neat Frame, our nice little kind of personal device or very small huddle room, great. Got everything on it. Neat Symmetry's on there as well as a 50 megapixel camera, and that's getting a lot of interest. But ultimately, it's the Neat board. Really good. It's won a couple of Red Dot Design Awards. Integrated, looks good, but people are using that. And we have something called Video Boundary, which is quite unique, where it shows you how the AI is working in the device. So red square, kind of green square, a little bit. So you have the ability to on the fly change your virtual video boundary.
Okay.
So particularly good today in open spaces where you've got a lot of people walking around the back. The camera will ignore them if you've got it set to within a few meters or a few feet of your stand. So we find that that's getting a lot of interest because it gives ultimately flexibility.
And of course, so many meeting rooms now have glass walls as dividers. So there is a lot of movement that could potentially be picked up from the camera, which is quite a useful feature to have.
That's right. That's exactly it. So it'll make sure it ignores that and then just gives that area that you can move it around now on the floor stand or whatever. So yeah, definitely that product.
So final question from me is around Teams and Zoom. Now, interestingly, I think when we began this journey of the pandemic, we saw that those two really were the leaders in terms of the choice of cloud-based conferencing platforms. But many surveys now are telling us that the majority of corporate businesses are using both, and they want to be able to be in a room using both. How easy is it with a Neat board or any Neat product to be able to switch between the two platforms if you want to?
It's a good question because actually it is fairly easy, but it's down to actually the platforms themselves. And you've got things like direct guest join and these kind of things coming, so that's making it easier. But I don't, this is my call, and it might be a little bit contentious, but I think as time moves on, I think there will be pressure to make it even easier for those platforms because we want that ubiquity. We want to be able to do that. Why does it matter what platform we're using? The good thing with the Neat devices is, and great for a stocking distributor, dare I say, like yourselves, is you don't have to make that decision until it's actually in situ on site. So you're presented with, when you get your Neat device out of the box experience, where you can go, okay, I'll choose Zoom or I'll choose Microsoft. Now, once you've chosen the install, you're set, and it's very easy to reset it if you need to. But ultimately you don't. But you don't have to make that choice until it's installed. And then in the future, we'll see more flexibility, no doubt, coming.
I think so. I think we're going to see a lot more common standards, open standards across the industry. And one of the early ones probably will be the interoperability between those two platforms and many more far easier. So
Definitely. I can see that coming, without a doubt.
thank you very much for joining us and have a good rest of show.
Thanks, Jenny. Thanks for the time. Indeed. See you.
So, guest number 2 out of the way. It's buzzing here. We've got about 30 manufacturers with us and lots of customers that have come out. I think, it was really clear to see both at ISE and Infocom and various other events that in-person events are very much back, and people are really enjoying being able to network, see product, touch product, and speak to the manufacturers about what's coming next. So with me now is John from nimans. So we've made 2 acquisitions most recently. We've already spoken to Gavin from DVS, and now we have John joining us from nimans.
With the new kids.
Oh yes, I know. And are we being welcoming?
Very much so.
Excellent.
For us, it's business as usual, but it's how we add value to the wider group.
Yes, absolutely. So I'll start with a similar question to what I posed to Gavin earlier.
Yeah.
You're here with predominantly AV customers coming and seeing you at the show. Now, you guys come from a telecoms background, but much like us, you've been forced into the world of UC because that is, of course, where we are seeing most communications going. You've been working with Yealink for some time, so this isn't a new area for you. You've been working with video conferencing for some time, but what are you finding to be the difference in terms of your typical customer versus the customers that you're meeting here today?
I think from the Midwich piece, the clients and the customers are much larger, have access to larger deployments. I think from the nimans base, it's more SMB.
Yep.
But it's also that many of the Midwich resellers we've spoken to today don't really talk about voice.
Yes.
They're great from an AV perspective. They probably walk away for some small opportunities, some voice-only opportunities. We've been talking about Teams Direct routing and session border controllers and how we can expand on that offering.
Yeah. And obviously the utopia is that we do reach a point where we can have one common platform across our corporate businesses that we use for all communications. How far or where do you think we are now in that transition from VoIP over to cloud or, a Zoom phone or a Teams phone scenario?
We're a long way down that journey. Cloud is so prevalent today. We've moved away from that kind of on-prem solution. There's still demand, but everyone's moving to cloud. We've actually got 4 cloud offerings ourselves. But what we find is we need to take that customer on a journey. It's an education piece. It's a training piece. But there's so many vendors in that market as well. It's picking the right one. It's backing the right horse.
Yeah, agreed.
Yeah.
And is traditional telephony dead?
Not at all. In our world, we call it TDM, traditional telephony. People are moving away into SIP today, to cloud. We still sell an awful lot of on-prem telephone systems, an awful lot of on-prem DEX solutions. It'll still be around for a long, long time, but cloud is more prevalent today.
Absolutely. And are we ready, your industry, our industry, to switch over to that cloud? What would you say is the ratio of handsets sold versus headsets sold now for corporate use?
It's actually interesting because I spoke to the guys at Zoom a little while back, and their attachment rate of devices was about 20 or 30%.
Okay.
But in our world, it's about 70%.
Wow.
So I think the device on the desk is very important. But hybrid working is changing that very slightly. So people want technology at home and in the office. It's getting that blend right.
Yeah, absolutely. And you have Yealink here with you today.
We do.
Very interesting brand. They were really quite ahead of the curve, actually, in terms of Zoom room options, Teams room options. Some bring your own meeting setups as well. From I remember seeing those guys 3-4 years ago at some AV shows and go, wow, this is quite far ahead. What have they got on show here today, and what's getting the most interest?
We've got a couple of meeting room presentation solutions today. We have a tracking camera solution today as well. We've also been talking about some products we couldn't bring today. Okay. So whiteboarding products and meeting room whiteboard solutions.
Okay, fantastic.
So lots of new technology from Yealink.
And one of the hot topics in the industry that I've just tackled with Meet as well is meeting equity. So we were all at home. We were on very much a level playing field. We all had the same size box, exactly. And we learned a new way to conduct our meetings. We gained some manners, I think, didn't we? We would use the feature to raise a digital hand. We would use the chat function rather than talking amongst ourselves. A lot of that's gone out of the window now that we've got, half of the workforce back in the office. How important is that to your customers, meeting equity, and what are they asking for in terms of the hardware solutions in a video conferencing room to achieve that?
That's actually quite an interesting question, because it's very valid for a reseller, but it's kind of, we lack the AV piece prior to joining forces with Midwich. So we're going through that journey ourselves as well with our resellers. So there's that education play.
Yeah.
It's really educate that reseller to add value with the AV piece to get that equity.
Okay.
Yeah.
And it does feel at the moment like we've got so many solutions available to answer multiple problems, because we haven't really found our feet, have we, in terms of our ideal hybrid working practice. So, and what else have you got here representing nimans today? I've seen a few stands.
We've got 4 or 5 stands we've had. So
Tell us about those.
We have a Beyond Connectivity team.
Yeah.
So those guys specialise in network services, which again is very interesting given the trend for 2025 to move to SIP away from ISDN. We have mobile airtime products here as well. Outside of that, we have an NEC. Again, as we move away from the on-premise solution to UCAS, NEC are here to take people on a journey to cloud. And the nimans piece around the whole go-to technology play for our resellers.
Fantastic.
We are the go-to supplier of technology solutions.
And in your industry, so in AV, we've been suffering quite badly in spikes and falls with stock shortages, mostly due to the lack of chipsets, but also a series of unfortunate events in terms of lockdowns and staff shortages and the Suez Canal. How has that been for your product sets? Have you experienced this too?
It's been challenging, less so with Yealink because we manage our stock profile well in advance with the Chinese suppliers. We have seen it in networking products, but we're starting to see that kind of more product become available today.
Good.
There is a shortage of Bluetooth modules and DEC modules in traditional technology, but no, it's getting better.
Excellent. Good to hear. Well, thanks so much for indeed. Thank you so much for joining us.
Anytime.
Welcome to the group.
Thanks a
and
lot.
to Technology North.
We'll see you next year.
Thanks, John. Yes.
Brilliant. Thanks.
So that was great. We've got one more guest to join us here today. The show's still very busy. So I'm going to welcome Marshall from Samsung, who I don't think you were warned that you were coming on, were you, Marshall? So
are we live already?
We are.
Oh, okay,
we are indeed. We've been live for the last 20 minutes or so. So Marshall got roped in at the last minute to come and talk to us, but it wouldn't be a Midwich Live at a live event show if we weren't speaking to Samsung. So welcome, Marshall. What have you got on show here today?
We've got, I'd like to say we've got quite a few products, but we've only got 2 main ones that we need to talk about today. So we've got our wall, which obviously people can see as they walk into the building. So it's just close to the staircase. It's nice and bright. Stay closer to it. It's a bit warm as well. So, and we also have our hero product, which is the Flip as well. Okay. So we're going to talk about those two.
Tell me about the Flip, because this is a new version. Is this the 4th generation of Flip that we're seeing, or 3rd generation of Flip?
You've been here a long time. So yes, it is the 4th generation Flip that we're seeing now. It's not the one that we have on stand today. So we've got the 3rd generation. That's the one that we're showcasing. But we have released the 4th generation, which you'll start to see throughout the summer. So pretty much predominantly in Q3 and Q4, you will start to see the 4th generation Flips as well.
And which markets are you targeting with the Flip products now? Which vertical markets are important to you?
Any university that doesn't have our Flips probably needs to get in touch with us. But again, the education market is predominantly where we want to position our Flips. But that's not to say corporate is not an area that we're also targeting. So corporates, we've seen it being deployed in banks. We've also seen it being deployed in different financial sectors. So those 2 areas are pretty much where we've aligned our product for.
And what would you say the unique selling points are? Because obviously we've had a number of touch screens around for some time now, born really in the education sector, where we moved away from interactive boards and projectors over into touch screens. Then there's been a real boom in interest in terms of the corporate boardroom, although personally I've always found in many meeting rooms people are too lazy to stand up and use a touchscreen. They prefer to sit down. So we're headed back over to education. What would you say that the Flip offers a user over and above what else is out there? What are those key selling points and reasons for universities that aren't using Flip already to come and look at it?
It boils down to functionality, ease of use, in terms of how easy is it to use our screens, in terms of students being able to pair up to the screen, and even teachers, because so often people do not want to change. Yeah, you just want something that you plug and it's easy to go.
Yeah.
So Flip provides you with that functionality. In terms from a connection perspective, you can connect it via using your phone. You can connect it via laptop. You can connect it remotely. In terms, you can also do the wireless connection on it. So that then makes it more desirable. I'm not saying other brands you're not able to do that. At times you might need to download an app and do all sorts, but with the Flip, even iOS devices are now able to connect to our device.
And that's becoming more and more prevalent, I think, today, isn't it? That the own device is becoming very much a strong part of the meeting, particularly post-pandemic, because we've done so much using our own devices. So in terms of ISE and more recently Infocom, what drew the most attention to the Samsung stands at those large events?
I think the three key products that drew more attention. So I think we're at a phase where we've revamped our products. Obviously, after the 3 years, we do a refresh of our brand. So our QM and QB range, also our QH range, we've made some amazing changes to those. We've listened to what our end users have required us to do, and obviously that was a standout as well. 8K is an area that we're dipping into. I think we're seeing more content in terms of end users and businesses requiring 8K screens, so the brighter the better and stuff like that. So again, that was outstanding. It'll be injustice for me to sit here and not talk about what the wall has been able to do in terms of those places. So again, we showcase the newer improved walls that we have. So the 0.6, the 1.8, and the 1.6s that we have. So again, those were outstanding during ISE as well.
So I mean, we're close now, really, aren't we, to the resolutions that we see from QLED products in the wall in a meeting room setting at much smaller sizes, which is quite exciting. I did see a little conspiracy theory online that you had hypnotic content at the last two shows, because every time I went to walk past the wall, there were at least 30 people stood just absolutely hypnotized by the content and sort of zombified staring at it. So I don't know what magic you were putting onto people at the shows, but it definitely drew lots of attention. Do you think that we are, where do you think we are now in that evolution from using standard or LCD display technology over to LED in both in the home and also in the corporate workspace? Are you seeing more interest in LED versus traditional display now, or are we not quite there yet?
I think we're getting there. I mean, for example, when we look at the video wall market, in some areas it's growing, in some areas it's declining. Yes. So I think over the last year we started to see a decline within that area. But that's to say people are switching to the LED options that are available because of, one, in terms of durability, how far, in terms of what you'll spend, return on investment, and obviously what you get out of the LED piece. You're absolutely right in saying that people were drawn towards our screens a little bit more. Basically, it's us being able to make the blacks blacker. Yeah. The color balance on those is more brighter where it needs to be brighter, and the Xbox functionality that we have running behind the LED screens and stuff like that helps bring those colors to life a little bit more, so people can relate and can be drawn in.
Absolutely, and of course. For those that haven't seen, Microsoft Teams now have their front row offering, which actually has a native output of 21:9. So the industry probably wasn't quite ready for Microsoft to come forward and say, we're changing the aspect ratio that you've all been working to for many, many years. But I've seen front row in use and it looks fantastic. And LED is an obvious choice to be able to use that modular technology and build that 21:9 ratio so that you can reap the benefits of that meeting equity that front row in Teams uses. So thank you so much, Marshall, for joining us. Okay. And I hope that you have a good rest of show.
Okay. Before I go, it would be injustice for me not to shout out to Piasco and say our screens are available. The IWA 110, so in all different sizes are available. Stock is available. So if your customers want to reach out to Piasco, that's readily available. Also, the Flip is also available within the Midwich group. So please bother them, give them, contact them as much as you can, and let us know where we need support. We will support.
Fantastic. And of course, anyone who watched this year's Apprentice would have seen a lot of representation from the Flip, as it was on every episode, I believe, this year. So.
Yeah, it was on every episode, and I'm glad I didn't get fired by not selling the Flip this year. So I'm hoping that we can turn it around in Q3 and Q4.
Brilliant. Thanks, Marshall, for joining us.
Thank you. Cheers.
So that's it for my guests for today. It's been quite a good, fun experience actually to be sitting here and streaming live in person, not seeing myself. So hopefully we delivered good video and audio to you. Thank you so much to my colleagues at Holden who've made this possible for us to do a live stream from the event. I'm going to get back to catching up with customers and vendor colleagues. And I wish you all a very good afternoon and evening. Thanks so much for joining us on Midwich Live.